Hello and welcome to Denis Comic School. And today I will talk about a book that was very, very inspiring. I read it 2 years ago, and I knew I had to make a video about this, and then I kind of forgot, and now I'm rereading it. And what struck me most about this book, it is not about politics. It is not about the things you think that this book is about. Um, it is more about masculinity and humanity and about light and dark. And the amount of times I was reading this book, and it really had the perspective on a male, on the father on Paul's father during the time they go to Arrakis, or what's his name, Tufir, the head of security or the head of assassins for the Atreides, and then at a certain point, Lady Jessica sees that the Fremen are really perfectionists, and so it is really about a state of mind. And I will show this in the first passage. This is part 1 of the Dune book review, and we'll hop in chapter 1 and 2 of this book. And chapter 1 is about the Atreides and about nobility and the light, and then chapter 2 is about Harkonnen, and the book explicitly says, and we will get to that passage when it says you cannot look at light without seeing the dark. Don't worry, the Walking Dead reviews are coming. I know nobody cares, but I do care. Maybe one day somebody will find it or won't find it, but I think it's important for history to point out what this is and what this is not. It is a great action comic, but it also has definitely flaws. And I think I wish I would have read this in the times when Kirkman was writing them, and I would have pointed out the flaws back then. Now, almost 20 to 10 years later, nobody will care. But still, sometimes things need to be done. So let's get into Dune from Frank Herbert. And let's skip the beginning part. Let's see. So sometimes I will read something, but yeah, so the first passage, I think not that important, but the book has definitely great points. So I don't know, where should I start? Take this away. It is written like some people have problems with the book, and it's a very thick book. And I have to say, it can be intimidating, but it reads very, very smoothly. It is like, and then like the backside of the book is appendix and some other things, but it covers roughly, if you've seen the movies, movie 1 and movie 2, like this. And I found the book way better, just way better. And we'll see in a second that Frank Herbert has mastered the art of writing very suspenseful, very interesting. The way he sets up the story is just amazing. Like, you're hooked from the first second. And I think if you want to write stories or comics, maybe you can take some things for yourself. And then it's also beautifully written. It's also like the words, the sentences. It's just such a pleasure to read it. And that's the second part. And also then, and this is like really amazing, because like it is rare to find something crafted that well. And then also the themes are very important. And I think most people, they sometimes write something suspenseful, they do it beautifully, but then there's nothing underneath, so they have no themes. It's all, how do you say, all icing but no cake. There's no substance there. But here, the themes are thick, and they are not laid on thick, they're very, very subtle. And that's also beautiful because they're subtle undertones, and it's about logic, self-control, mastery. Are you human? And it is like humanity, mastery, control, being an exalted human versus are you an animal driven by instinct, by fear, by greed, by gluttony, by those things. And as you can see, the Atreides are the light and the Harkonnen are the dark. And they have virtue, elegance, peak humanity. They're noble, represented by the eagle. And the Harkonnen are beast-like. They're animal, they're crude, they're low. They live in a fearful state. And I think books like this, and while I was reading this 2 years ago and while I'm reading this again, I think the world is in a very troublesome state. And so you're always fear and stress induced. And here we will see and read a passage in very, very, very soon where fear is the mind killer. So I think this book is also, it can be, while you read it, especially I would say as a man, because it is about Paul Atreides, and we will talk and see what the themes are. But I think this is a coming of age story, being raised as a boy by a good family, by a good mother, I would say, and a good father, and becoming a man. And we will explore that during this, I would say, review of the book. So let's start with chapter 1. And I will point out certain points, read certain passages, and we will see what we can take it. So here it starts. I read the first sentence. In the weeks before the departure to Arrakis, when all the final scurrying about had reached a nearly unbeatable frenzy, an old crone came to visit the mother of the boy, Paul. So he's the main figure. It was a warm night at Castle Caladan. This is cool because like it begins in a castle. It's like we're in medieval times. And I would say this is probably a boy adventure. I don't know if girls read it the same way, but yeah, or women. An ancient pile of stone that had served the Atreides family as a home for 26 generations bore that cool sweat feeling. So it is night at Castle Caladan, and Paul is sleeping, or at least he's pretending to sleep, and an old hag is coming to visit him, and she's like a wizard, or maybe she's like an old witch, and his mother, the Lady Jessica, she was once a servant for this, but now the Lady Jessica is like the queen of the castle. And so he knows he's going to see Dune, Arrakis, and they're moving. And he's thinking and dreaming about the desert planning, the desert planet. And then we get here, like we're in the beginning of the story, and here's cool, like he overhears, or he can kind of sense what his mother and the revered mother are talking. And so he doesn't know what are they talking about. It's like what is the Gom Jabbar and all of this stuff. So we get introduced with mysteries, and that's pretty cool. What is the Kwisatz Haderach? What is the Gom Jabbar? Has it something to do with Arrakis? So we're not bombarded, but we're getting suspenseful riddles, which is always good to start with a riddle. And then we get to Tufir Hawat, his father's master assassin, master of assassins, had explained it. They're mortal enemies. So I mean, this is awesome. We're in a castle, we're a boy. Then we get Tufir Hawat, his father's master of assassins, had explained it. They're mortal enemies. And here's the action already. Like you know there will be blood here. Because like we got master assassins, we got witches, we got mortal enemies. The Harkonnen had been on Arrakis for 80 years. And so their mortal enemies were on Arrakis, and now they're moving in because the Emperor ordered the House Atreides to go there. And that's pretty cool. And then, wait a second, where are we? And so Paul meets now this old witch. She's a truthsayer, the Emperor's truthsayer. And he is schooled in the art of the Bene Gesserit, which is maybe, I don't know, witchcraft, you could say. But in this universe, it's like they are very spiritual and very aware of subtle things, shift in tone, in body gesture. So he's already not human, he's already superhuman. And that's also what this book will have. It's like, I don't know if it's the theme like of the Ubermensch, but it's going there. It wants people to evolve, and we will get in a second to that. So he talks with the Reverend Mother, and he's a bit standoffish because the Revered Mother, the old witch, is treating his mother a bit less than ideal, because he knows his mother to be a queen, and for the Revered Mother, she's an old servant, so they have a different relationship. And now he has to pass a test, but we're not yet there. And then Paul picks up on the fear of his mother. And yeah, wait a second. We're coming to the cool stuff in a second. So they talk a bit, and she says, I want to test you. I want to know if you're a human or an animal. And he doesn't really get it. But here she says, where is it? The point I should have pointed out. Or maybe it will come here in a second, where they talk about machines and human and thinking. Yeah. So it's about fear. It's about what you do with the fear. And that's the first test. So he puts his hand into a device, and fear overcomes it. And the Revered Mother says, if you take out your hand, you're just an animal. And if you can stand the fear, then you show me you can be a human. You can logical, or you can overcome fear without acting like a beast. And first he's like not tempted, but the fear and the pain is so much he cannot take it. And when the Revered Mother says, your mother went through the same test, he kind of gets logical again, or he kind of lets a bit go of the fear. And then he passes the test. And here, this is a good passage. So I will just point out some of the nuggets. Why do you test for humans? He asked. To set you free. Free? Question mark. Once man turned their thinking over to machines, in their hopes that this would set them free. But that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them. That's a bit where we are going right now with AI. I use it myself a lot, especially for questions and when I'm brainstorming. But there's definitely a power and a danger in sharing everything with machines or with these corporations, and they could do a lot of harm. And it could do also a lot of harm to your own thinking, to your own agency. And this is now, Paul quotes this, but "Tu shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a man's mind," Paul quoted. And then the Revered Mother says, right out of the Butlerian Jihad and the Orange Catholic Bible. But what the OC Bible should have said is, "Tu shalt not make a machine that counterfeits a human mind." Have you studied the Mentat in your service? So this will be very much a book about your mental abilities and about what you can do with your own humanity and with your own mind, which is really very cool. And so he says, I studied with Tufir Hawat. And then she says, the Great Revolt took away a crutch, she said. It forced human minds to develop. Schools were started to train human talent. And then from here, they abandon machines and the human mind starts to develop in a higher realm. I found it very cool, a very cool idea. And throughout this book, I will think a lot, not only about the Jedis, but also about something like X-Men or stuff like that, where maybe we're meant, or also some spiritual intelligence, where we might maybe go from human to superhuman by being more in alignment with our, how do I say it, higher faculties. And yeah, so far. And let me see what's next. And so there she gives him that he could be the Quizas Haderach, like a Messiah. And this could then look into the past and into places. But every man that then has tried has not only failed but died. So we know that he has a great future ahead of him, but that it will be dangerous. And then from here, this was part 1, and we saw what humanity could be, or probably what you as the reader could be, that you could be exalted from your beast state. And then this is very important. This is now part 2. So maybe I call this the yin and the yang. But yin is the dark side and yang is the fiery side. Maybe I call it yang and yin. So to attempt, this is now chapter 2, where we look at the Harkonnens. To attempt an understanding of the Muad'Dib, which is Paul in his Messiah state, without understanding his mortal enemies, the Harkonnens, is to attempt seeing truth without knowing falsehood. And this is very important. Like, I'm now 41 and I've struggled much of my life, but with struggle and stupidity and falsehood comes also wisdom, and you cannot know truth without knowing falsehood. It is the attempt to see light without knowing darkness. It cannot be. From Manual of Muad'Dib by the Princess Irulan. And then we get shown a bit the world of the Harkonnens, and of course, like, whereas the Atreides live in a castle, the Harkonnen, they live in crude, dark places. And here the Mentat assassin is called Peter, I think, Peter. And the Baron Harkonnen is also ugly, and he's fat, and he's carried by suspensors, which he's 200 kilograms, so he's morbidly obese, but he's carried by some gravity stuff. And so I would say this is hell. Like, he's definitely fake, and things that are fake and ugly, they tend to produce bad outcomes. And also the way they speak, while the Atreides, when they have conflict, they always try to resort, I wouldn't say logic, but to some higher ideal, to try to understand and to be understood. And here it is all like Vladimir Harkonnen, his Mentat, they are all a bit hateful. And also his nephew, Fate Rauta, is also here. And so they don't have a loving relationships. Like, they are all kind of bound by, I don't know, how do we say it? Like, just necessity. They just try to profit of each other. And so they're talking how they have this beautiful trap. So Fate Rauta is also there. They have this trap for the Atreides, and they have planned. And now in this dark place, the Baron Harkonnen is filling his nephew, Fate Rauta, in on the plan how they will destroy the Atreides bloodline. And Peter, the master assassin, says, don't tell him everything. And Baron Harkonnen says, no, I want him to know everything. I want him to be my successor. But it's very hostile. So everybody's very hostile to each other. It's not loving. Um, and they're very impatient and all of that. And and here the Baron thinks, for a Mentat, you talk too much, Petir. The Baron said, and he thought, I must do away with that one soon. He has almost outlived his usefulness. So if you're not useful, and this is what this Harkonnen do, I would say maybe they're very materialistic, very in the flesh, which I wouldn't say is bad all the time, but they just think in usefulness. So it's not love that commands them. It's maybe the material, it's the flesh, it's the pleasure, the pain, all of these senses, all of the lower things that maybe are good in a sense, but if you live just through them and not to your higher values like love or brotherhood or excellence, then things get distorted and stay down and heavy. And so the assassin knows that one day he will go, but of course. And then Fate Rotha, he's also thinking, what is this about? And he says, Fate Rotha squirming in his chair, these wrangling fools, he thought, my uncle cannot talk to his Mentat without arguing. Do they think I have nothing to do except listen to the arguments? So they're all just useful idiots, each one to another. And at a certain point, Petir says, I want the Lady Jessica in this deal because they're talking how they are gonna kill and betray the Duke Leto and all of his people, and that they have infiltrated Dr. Yue, and that Dr. Yue is conditioned by Imperial conditioning. I don't know if that's some mind conditioning which cannot be broken, but they got to Dr. Yue, so they have now an inside man, and they are now laying on the plan. And here the Baron will say in a second, where is it? The trap will bring him to you, Baron. So, and now they say, wait a second. They will say that at a certain day they will come down with their own army, and also helped by the Emperor and the Emperor's finest, the Sardaukar, 2 legions of it, to betray and wipe out the Atreides. And this cannot be known. So the Emperor, who is betraying one of his own, he will bring his Sardaukar and conceal them as Harkonnen. So it's a master plan. And it's also like a good thing. Like in the beginning, we learn about Paul, and then it's like in Hitchcock, where you have your table and 2 people are speaking, and then in the second chapter, it's like, okay, there is a bomb under the table. What's gonna happen? And this is the dynamic. We know Paul and his family are going. We're kind of rooting for him because he's very sympathetic. And in the second, we learn about the bad guys and how despicable they are and how they want to destroy the family. Yeah. And here it is. So go ahead, tell him, said the Baron. We'll move in strengthened by 2 legions of the Sardaukar, disguised in Harkonnen livery. Sardaukar, Fate Rotha breathed. His mind focused on the dread Imperial troops, the killers without mercy, the soldier fanatics of the Padisha Emperor. You see how I trust you, Fate, the Baron said. No hints of this must ever reach another great house. Else the Landrat might unite against the Imperial House, and there'd be chaos. So there are houses, or powerful houses, and they form together the Landsrat, which is maybe a coalition, and then there's the Imperial House, which maybe is the most powerful, but maybe they are in balance. and chaos would be war. But so there is like the Bene Gesserit, which is maybe the sisterhood. Then there is the navigators, and the navigators control the spies and travel, and everybody has to make a deal with everybody else. So they call it here the Chom Company, and I think they also are independent from the emperor, and everybody's dependent on everybody else, but they're all power hungry. So if they could backstab each other, they would. And the Harkonnens are definitely doing this. And here the Harkonnens are a tool for Emperor, but they are the right tool because like they are the beast-like. They are the ones who betray. And yeah, and then also what we see here is not only the way they talk, but also, let me read this one. Where is it? Yeah, the Baron moved out and away from the globe of Arrakis. He emerged from the shadows. His figure took on dimension, grossly and immensely fat, and with subtle bulges beneath folds of his dark robes to reveal that all his fat was sustained partly by portable suspensor harness to his flesh, which is like an abomination. He's fat, and he has now suspensors which lift him up, and they are in his flesh. So he's, I don't know, pretty disgusting. He might weigh 200 standard kilos in actuality, but his feet would carry no more than 50 of them. And then the Baron says, "I'm hungry," the Baron rumbled on, and he rubbed his protruding lips with a beringed hand, stared down at Feyd-Rautha through fat and folded eyes. "Send for food, my darling. We will eat before we retire." So these guys are motivated by coin, by money, by food, by pleasure, by all of these things, which in of themselves can be good, but eating should be a pleasure, but only to sustain living and a healthy body. Or maybe sex is healthy, but should definitely be in service of love and life, and not just for its own sakes. And so we have seen the light and we have seen the dark, and I don't know if I could really show you how cool it is, but yeah, I'm trying, and I will cover from time to time a chapter, but yeah, let's leave it at that. For now, chapter 1 I call light, chapter 2 I call dark, or maybe heaven, hell, and then we'll see what the rest of the book will be like. So I can't recommend this enough, and we see us in the next video.